Christian Horner's departure from Red Bull after 2 decades has sent shockwaves through the Formula One paddock. For years, Horner wasn't just a team principal. He was the face, the strategist, and the voice behind one of the most dominant teams in modern F1 history. Now, for the first time since 2005, he's a free agent. And that's got everyone asking one question: where will he go next? Sources close to the sport suggest 2 very real possibilities: Alpine and Aston Martin. Both teams are on vastly different paths, yet both see Horner as a potential game changer. But beyond just a new role, there's another layer to this story. Could this be Horner's ultimate revenge on Red Bull, the team that cut ties after 20 years of partnership? Let's start with Alpine, because right now, they seem to have a slight edge in this tug-of-war. Alpine is a team in desperate need of a proven leader, someone who has rebuilt a squad from the ground up and knows what it takes to turn a struggling operation into a championship contender. Horner has done exactly that before. Back in the turbo-hybrid era, Red Bull wasn't the powerhouse it is today. They'd been knocked off their perch, but under Horner's leadership, they signed a transformative deal with Honda, brought Max Verstappen to the forefront, and climbed their way back to the very top. Despite the controversies that shadow his exit from Red Bull, Horner's achievements speak for themselves. Alpine's current management structure has lacked that kind of proven, battle-tested leadership. For them, Horner isn't just a safe bet. He's the only bet that makes sense if they want to climb back into contention quickly. But here's where it gets interesting. If Horner does join Alpine, it's unlikely to be as a simple team principal. Bernie Ecclestone, one of Horner's closest allies, has made it clear there's absolutely no way Christian will take a standard principal role at this point in his career. Instead, Ecclestone believes Horner will be gunning for something bigger, a senior executive position with genuine power, maybe even a stake in the team itself. And that's not entirely far-fetched. Alpine has been rumored to be exploring the sale of part of their team. If Horner can secure financial backing, and given his persuasive track record, that's a big possibility. He could step into a position of influence that goes far beyond running the day-to-day garage. Imagine Alpine with Horner not just calling race strategies, but shaping the team's entire future direction, driver lineup, and engineering philosophy. That could be the exact injection of vision they've been missing. Of course, there's a catch. Ecclestone himself is skeptical, saying, "I think there's more chance of Lewis Hamilton winning his 8th title than Christian becoming Alpine's CEO." He points out that Horner's ultimate dream at Red Bull was partial ownership of the team, and without a financial backer, it's hard to see him pulling that off elsewhere. Still, Bernie knows as well as anyone that in F1, impossible is just another word for not yet. Horner's connections in the sport could be his biggest advantage. His longtime friendship with Flavio Briatore, now back in Alpine's orbit, could smooth the path if both men see value in a collaboration. And let's be clear, if Alpine offered Horner the kind of authority he craves, he'd have the perfect platform to silence his critics and rebuild a team in his own image. Martin Brundle, another respected voice in the paddock, agrees that Horner's experience is too valuable to ignore. But Brundle also believes Horner's next move will be dictated as much by pride as by opportunity. You can't go from running one of the most successful teams in the world to a step down, Brundle says. Christian wanted full control of what he felt he'd built at Red Bull, and once that was gone, it was only ever going to end one way. Brundle suggests Horner will only return to F1 if the role gives him both influence and ownership. That's why the Alpine scenario is appealing, but also risky. Horner would be joining a team with deep-rooted structural problems, a history of underperformance, and a driver lineup that's yet to prove itself as a genuine title threat. He'd be betting his legacy on turning them around. Not everyone is convinced Horner is the right fit. Pierre Gasly, who spent a turbulent half-season under Horner at Red Bull before being demoted, has mixed feelings. While Gasly acknowledges Horner's accomplishments, when you've got the number of championships he has in 20 years, you can only respect that. Personal history could make a reunion awkward. Still, even Gasly admits that someone with Horner's skills will always be in demand. Then there's Aston Martin, the other major contender. Under Lawrence Stroll, Aston Martin has been on a relentless recruitment drive, pulling in big names like Adrian Newey, Andy Cowell, and even rekindling their partnership with Honda. For Stroll, Horner could be the final piece in a puzzle designed to turn Aston Martin into a front-running team. But here's the complication. Adrian Newey and Christian Horner have a history. Newey's departure from Red Bull was partly driven by internal politics, and while the exact details remain murky, there's little doubt that Horner was involved in some way. Would Newey be happy to see Horner walk through the door at Aston Martin? That's far from certain. Interestingly, the two were recently spotted together at an Oasis concert, and Newey is godfather to one of Horner's children, suggesting there's still some goodwill between them. But F1 is as much about politics as it is about speed, and old wounds don't always heal completely. Another factor is that Aston Martin already has a clear leadership structure with Mike Crack as team principal and Stroll himself calling the shots. If Horner were to join, it would likely mean reshaping that hierarchy, and that could create internal tension before a single race was run. Still, Stroll's ambition is well documented. He's not afraid to take risks if he believes they'll get results. If Horner became available and willing, it's entirely possible Aston Martin would find a way to make it work. The wild card in all of this is Horner himself. Despite all the speculation, he's kept tight-lipped about what he wants from his next role. Some reports hinted he might even pursue a position within the FIA, but those have been quickly dismissed. Horner thrives in the competitive chaos of the pit wall, not in the bureaucracy of a governing body. If anything, he's more likely to seek a role where he can go head-to-head with his former rivals, rebuild a team from the ground up, and prove that Red Bull's dominance wasn't just down to resources or luck. This is a man who's built his career on strategic risk-taking, and his next move will almost certainly reflect that. So what's the verdict? Alpine might be the better fit in terms of opportunity and influence, especially with their leadership vacuum and the possibility of partial ownership. Aston Martin offers resources, ambition, and a rapidly improving infrastructure, but comes with the baggage of Horner's history with Newey and a less clear path to top-level authority. What's certain is that Horner's decision will be one of the most closely watched moves of the 2025 F1 season. After 20 years, 6 Constructors Championships, and the rise of one of the most dominant drivers in modern history, Christian Horner's next chapter will either cement his legacy as one of the sport's greatest leaders, or mark the beginning of an entirely new era in his career. One thing's for sure, Christian Horner isn't the type to fade quietly into the background. Whether he turns up in Alpine blue, Aston Martin green, or shocks the paddock with a completely unexpected move, the F1 world will be watching and waiting.